in business and leadership. So today, what I want to do is, because we are focusing on shifting to remote work, is bring up the 5 C's that I think are valuable for everybody to keep in mind as they shift their mindset from working in their daily ways to remote. The first is clarity. So the being, the thinking, the strategic thought will help you decide what really is important and essential and critical for your business. And the reason you need this clarity is because, like Susan had mentioned earlier, productivity will dip while everybody's adjusting to this new phase. And as productivity dips, initially, we need to provide time for everyone to adjust. And what that translates into is make sure you do the most important things first. So decide on what needs to get done by whom and when first. Once you have that crystal clear clarity, the next step or the next C is to communicate it, right? You create the safety and you create that understanding and that alignment within the team, within the organization, by communicating what to you is now very clear. What needs to happen, who needs to do it, by when do they need to do it? And don't just tell people that, have that conversation, because we had this discussion earlier in today's panel. Everyone is dealing with issues at home, right? Even they're dealing with isolation, they may have to take care of family, they might just be looking for a quiet workspace that they can be productive in. It doesn't matter what they're facing. The fact is we're all going through challenging times and change that is pretty sudden and unexpected. So keeping that in mind, have the conversation, make sure you agree together as a team on what needs to get done and by when. Now, nobody wants to let their team down. If you have built belonging, once your people have committed to doing something, they will make sure they get it done so they don't let their team down. What it also does is, because you've mutually agreed on it, you can now set in motion accountability processes. Accountability processes in this world, in the remote world, can be as simple as figuring out how frequently you're going to check in to either discuss what the progress is, to resolve any issues that have arisen, to schedule a team brainstorming session, whatever it is that you need to do to make sure that the most important work gets done. That leads us to C3. The third C is connection, right? And yes, infrastructure is important, and webinars and web-based video conferencing is great, but I'm not talking about that connection. I'm talking about connecting with each other as human beings. I think it was Devin who brought up how you as a leader and as a manager are as human as your team is. Connect on that human level, share your vulnerability, source your people's strength just as you give them yours. Be a team, ask them how they're doing, not just as workers, but as people. And you can do this, like basically what you're doing is creating a virtual water cooler or a virtual coffee machine, wherever it is you use to gather, and talk about things beyond work, beyond what needs to get done. Right? You can do this with low tech, such as email. You can have a dedicated email chain where you share jokes, where you share personal stories, where you share your personal challenges. You can do it through video conferencing. You can have a specific amount of time dedicated in your team meetings that you actually, just talk about not work, etc. So create that space for connection. From there, we get on to C4, which is competence. There are so many tools out there. Maggie, thanks so much for sharing some of them, but there are many, many more tools. Figure out what tools are best for the kind of work you and your team need to get done. And of course, you have to keep in mind what tools you have available depending on where you are in the world. So based on that, figure out what's best and then build your own competence in that. The more competent you are, the more you will be able to coach and train your people to be competent in that. And the sooner the whole team acquires these skills, the sooner you can stop focusing on the learning and the change and focus on being productive and happy and secure and have that safety, right? And if you don't have the skill set, get help. There are so many experts offering help right now in training, in coaching, in whatever it is that you need. Get that help, train up your people, get them more comfortable. right? And it shows that you care, it gets you all together. And by putting this in place, you'll all be more competent and able to deal with the situation.